We're up to is we had done Siman Mem Beis Sif Aleph in the Mechaber, but we didn't have time to do the Mishnah Berurah. So I want to do the Mishnah Berurah on Sif Aleph, and then we'll go weiter. So the Shulchan Aruch had said that you're not allowed to change from the Shel Rosh to the Shel Yad, and even to take the Ritzua from the Shel Rosh and change it to the Shel Yad is the Ma'ileh Mekodesh Maridin. The Shel Rosh is considered more on a higher madrega because out of the Shem of Hashem, the Shel Rosh has two of the letters. It's got the Shin embossed on the box, and you got the Yud in the back of the head as a dalet at the back of the head, as opposed to the Shel Yad, which just has a Yud. So most of the Shem is Hashem are in the Shel Rosh. Mishnah Berurah says you're not allowed to change from the Shel Rosh to Shel Yad. Mishnah Berurah writes in Aleph, Afila ein lo Shel Yad, v'yesh lo bei Shel Rosh. It's not a matter of convenience. It doesn't matter whether, let's say I only have two Shel Roshes. It makes no difference. You're still not allowed to do it. Now, you're not even allowed to change the Ritzua from the Shel Rosh to the Shel Yad. The case also, if you have two Shel Rosh cases, you're not allowed to use it for the Shel Yad. And that's something people are not as particular about. Mayhem, so says the Mishnah Berurah, that you're not allowed to take the Ritzua from Mayhem, from the Shel Rosh, and move it to Shel Yad. Very interesting. Kasam Agad Avram. Im nifsaka Ritzua Shel Yad, samuch lekesher. I'll just say it out so we see this. It's very fascinating. Let's say, again, these halachas don't really come up as much because we could replace them. But you have a Ritzua by the Shel Yad rips. What you decide to do is, I'm just going to invert the whole thing, because now it's torn at the end, it doesn't look so nice. I'm going to undo the Yud. I'll put the Yud part at the arm. I'll just flip the whole thing. You're not allowed to do that either, because it's Ma'ileh Mekodesh Maridin. Because by the Shel Yad, that's the Ikar Ritzua. You're now switching it to the arm parts, which is not essential. So it says the Mishnah Berurah, Im nifsek Ritzua Shel Yad samach lekesher also lahabach roish acher l'mayla v'lasis by kesher Shel Yad. To flip the within the Shel Yad is a problem. Why? Because originally it had the kesher and it had the yud and it had the essential parts. And now you're just putting it around the arm, which is not essential. What do you have to do? Put in shevis. That's it. Get a new one. Now let's say I can't. I have no choice. Then so what you do is basically like this. You make it. You flip it around, but you make it. You don't go around the arm so many times. You make it that's the part that goes around the finger, because at least it's making a yud. So you might have to do less krichas on the arm. So at least the part that was by the yud is at least making the yud by the finger. He says, similar Shel Rosh, if let's say a part of the Shel Rosh gets ripped, you can't invert it, take a part that was around the head and move it to a part that's flowing. Actually, let's go back there. If you go back to if you look at the okay, let's go a little weiter. Now let's do Sif Beis. Sif Beis, the Mechaber says, I want to do Sif Beis and Sif Gimel. We'll do the entire Mechaber and Sif Gimel, and next time we'll do the Mishnah Berurahs, because there's a lot of studies in Mishnah Berurahs. Mechaber says, Im hisna alei metchila afil lovshin adam yachal shanoisim afil mishal roish l'shal yad. If when you bought the Shel Rosh, you specifically made a stipulation that you want the ability to change it in the future, then Tanai is Kayim. Then you're able to make such a stipulation. The Mishnah Berurah says, what does it mean betchila? Beis asiyas Shel Rosh. What are we talking about? We're not talking about when you bought it. The Seif who made it made the stipulation that any person can eventually change it. Yeah, that's allowed. Afim loy hisna rakim itztarach las menu shel yad sheyas mahani tanai. The kolshkin v'oimer she'ena oisa Shel Rosh elef ishad mahani. Especially if he makes it that he doesn't even want to have kedusha Shel Rosh, of course. Now, this is not very practical, but what is practical is the status of the bag. And this is a fundamental shayla. Once something has a certain level of kedusha, you can't be murdered in kedusha. So the question is the bag. Am I allowed to put stuff in the bag? People, you see this all the time. People put money in the bag. They put the mirrors, and you could argue the mirror is essential for maybe, but it's still not tefillin. And you're putting the siddur in there, which is not as holy as tefillin, and you're putting the money, which is definitely not as holy. So what's the heter about? So we're talking about Pashas, the tefillin bag itself, but the truth is, even the case, people sometimes will put a mirror inside the case itself. And the question is, what exactly is the heter? So we'll do this slowly, and the Mishnah Berurah has a lot of fundamental heter. The Shulchan Aruch writes in Gimel, Suder da azmene lemeitza bei tefillin. If you have a bag that was set aside to have tefillin in it, la'olam. So you go to the Svarim store and it has a tefillin bag. Vitsarbe tefillin. So it was made with the intention to have tefillin in it, and you actually put tefillin in it at least one time. Chad zimna osla meitza bezuzi. You're not allowed to put anything in the bag that is not on the same madrega as the tefillin itself. So you're not allowed to put money in that bag. Now, if you made a stipulation, then it's allowed. That stipulation could be when it was made or even when it was purchased. Before you put your tefillin in there, you stipulated, I want to be able to put stuff in, then that would be allowed as well. Now, v'klaf ha'mu'ubed l'shem tefillin asa lichta v'lav divrei chol, da'azmanik k'ay milsa gavna l'gufa kedusha milsahi. So he says like this, let's say you have a klaf that was made with the intention of tefillin, and you decide, I'm going to use it for my notes. That you can't do. Because once something is made with the intention to have kedusha saguf of tefillin, then hazmana milsi. When it's just the bag, okay, purchasing the bag is not enough. You have to actually use it. But the actual klaf itself, the hazmana is milsi. Now, so let's go back to the bag. When is it a problem to put anything in the bag? And by the way, there's a machlekes. We'll see next time. Rosh Zalman and the Minchas Elazar is what about the Ritzuas? Do the Ritzuas have the same kedusha, the tefillin, lower kedusha? In other words, what is the velvet bag that we have? But Pashas we're talking about the velvet bag. So according to the Mechaber, if it was made with the intention to use tefillin and you used it for tefillin, then you can't use it for anything else. But azmanei v'lo itzarbe v'lo azmanei, if it was made for the intention of tefillin but you haven't used it yet, or you used it, but what is it made for? That stam, you take a seasons bag and you put tefillin in there. So the halacha is shari l'meitzah bezuzi. You're still allowed to put money in there because you need both hazmana and asiyah. What we'll do is next time we'll talk about what about nowadays. It could be there is a svara that we'll see floating around. The Mishnah Berurah mentions it a couple times. The Sarach Chaim Kanievsky mentioned it a couple times in one of his svarim that there's such a svara as called leiv bezdin mas not leim, which is that something, even though you didn't make the stipulation, but if this is what is the average person does, it's ke'ilu the tanai was kayim, and that basically is going to be the heter for tefillin bags nowadays, because people put money in their tefillin bags. They put mirrors, they put sidurim. Most people, when they buy tefillin, I was in yeshiva, I bought the tefillin, I'm making tanai. Most people are not making tanais. The answer is because leiv bezdin mas not leim. That's, by the way, the same heter to lean on the bima. When I was in yeshiva, I was the halacha guy, right? So I used to put up the halacha cards. It was every day I'd put up a different card of a different halacha a day. So someone came over to me and he said, you should put up a halacha. You're not allowed to lean on the bima. So I said, I'm not going to do that. I think that there's a heter for it. He said, Rav Shalom, whenever Rav Shalom got an aliyah, he would bedafka move the paroiches stuff. What do we call it? The velvet cover that the Sefer Tefillin is placed on. He would dafka move it up to bear the wood, and he would dafka lean his elbows on the wood. Because, what's the pshat? The reason is because the velvet cover has the Sefer Torah laid on it during Tefillin, so it has the kedusha of a tashmish kedusha. Putting your elbows on it is a bizayin. So Rishalom would lean it forward. So I said, I understand Rishalom does that, but there's a heter. The heter is, so see, it's the same heter. The Mishnah Berurah brings down leiv bezdin mas not leim, because the average person leans their elbows when they get an aliyah. Chazal, it's kilu. So I spoke to Rishalom about it. Rishalom said, you could put up the card. He said, listen, is there a heter? Yeah. And he said, but halavai people have a little more zirizas for covered Sefer Torah. That's what he said.